towards my right. He is Principal Consultant with Data Security Council of India. He holds Master's degree in Business Management and BTech in IT and has to his credit several global information security certifications. Abhishek has decade plus of experience across different industry verticals such as banking, insurance, healthcare, life sciences, telecom, travel, hospitality, and high tech. He has been instrumental in public policy advocacy and consultation in areas of data privacy and cyber security. He has delivered many visionary workshops and is keynote speaker in areas of risk management, information security and privacy, new generation technologies, etc. He is also a guest faculty with some of the business schools. I hand over and request Abhishek to kindly deliver it.
So, respected members on the dais, esteemed and distinguished guests, and my dear friends, a very good afternoon. I represent Data Security Council of India. We have heard three sessions today talking about the legal aspects, the technology, as well as the UID Aadhaar, which forms more or less now the backbone for the identity and access management systems. I will be playing a devil's advocate for technology in terms of bringing out how information security has to be seen in terms of the sophistication with which the hackers are doing. The sophistication in terms of how the system security has to be seen in totality rather than individual systems. How an individual as well as system can play a role in terms of lot of misuse cases rather than use cases. So I'm just waiting for my presentation to be up. So it has been divided into kind of three sections where I'm trying to bring in a notional architecture. Vis-a-vis, I mean, because we have heard of different speakers talking about different systems, but what can be a typical architecture in a way how we can connect different dots, right from when a voter is registering into the system, casting ballots, probably asking for a blank ballot, or when a tally is being done. Probably, typically all the functions which happen when we are talking about a remote voting system. And typically for this to happen, you will have to enable multiple channels. We have seen basically how India is, and digital India is moving towards rather than e-governance to m-governance, where people will more and more be using their smart devices to handle all these applications which we are envisaging in our future world. So typically you can have your personal computer, your public computer by which people can cast their vote. When we are talking about howsoever mini-SQL segment, I think the great point brought forward in these sessions, earlier sessions, was that we have to plan in seeking the capacity where the system can scale. So even though if we are planning to roll out the system for a smaller segment, we need to see if we need to extrapolate this, how the technology can be enabled, and how and what are the different channels by which we will be enabling the cast of this remote voting system. So it can be either through any of your telephone connections or by well-linked kiosks or something similar to what we have with an ATM machine, which is guarded and which is protected, and you have it in certain points, certain places. Well, and definitely we have been talking a lot about intermediaries, whether it is internet service providers, infrastructure services, or even the telecom service providers. And at the end, there are certain back functions which are required when you are planning the entire election scheme, when you are doing the system administration of those the devices which form the backbone of your system. And then definitely, lot of business intelligence, the mining of data, and how is it going to result. I mean, it's not only the collection of results and the one which will be portrayed at the end. It's all about how the data will be linked for a lot of different purposes. I mean, we saw that how Dr. Pramod talked about Aadhaar being a zero knowledge system, but will it help for an application So for example, the remote voting, because you may require a lot of linkability in terms of how this will be crystallized when you are pushing this into a real world. And definitely at the bottom end, you will see different information IT systems, whether it's infrastructure, applications, databases, data warehouses, storage systems, and all that. The interesting point is that how the threat landscape or probably the different areas of this notional architecture enforce. So for example, equally, whether we are calling it as a personal computer or a public computer, if an individual is operating on it, typically a system will have no control what kind of security measures are deployed in there. So possibly, the threats which can crystallize are, your threats related to web application security. Definitely there will be a web application interface which will be integrating at the back end to the application and the database servers. So your as trivial as uh, uh, different kind of cross-site scripting or forgery, those kind of attacks can definitely crystallize if you have not deployed in state-of-art systems or probably the basic or bare minimum security controls on your personal machines. When we are talking about telephone lines again, can a wiretapping be done or probably when we were talking about some of the certified or registered devices where your mobile phone as well as your iris can probably act as an authentication, but post authentication can something go wrong. So those are the aspects which have to be seen in totality when you are seeing the system, not really in silo when you're talking about creating a system which will enable the R voting or e-voting scheme. And same is the case with the voting kiosks. I mean, how hardened are they? What are the state of technology or the systems which are put at the back end? We have talked about, anyways, I mean, we'll have to have certain amount of IT infrastructure, both in terms of hardware and software. But when we are having those hardware and software, are we sure that there is no backdoor kind of already coded inside the software, or there is no kind of hardware chip designed into the hardware, which will kind of siphon off your data, even though you are probably authenticating it with all the valid means. So those are the aspects which will have to be seen when you are constructing a system of such a scale, probably which will form the future of the voting system. Same is the case with the different processes, the different elements, as well as when we are talking about, even to an extent, as Shri Pawan Dugal talked about the different compliance regimes in the morning. So the major point would come to it's not about only in terms of what you need to safeguard, but probably if there are certain grievances which have to be redressed, that I voted, say for example, for person X, but at the end something has happened, behind the systems, and it is resulting into something Y. So who will address those, and for that, do I have the capability of attribution? Can I see basically technologically that I have sufficient evidence and that is preserved to kind of help them redress those kind of grievances? There can be plentiful use cases around the same in how the technology can be misused, from as small as a web application to a database, and how and when people are monitoring them or administrating them at the back end. Same is the case with the infrastructure. I think probably a lot of technology folks are here. I will not reinforce the point. We have been talking about that the systems are hardened by a policy. They are scanned periodically by some kind of tools. The hacker world has kind of sophisticated to a great extent. Nowadays, the malwares are no longer a single vector malware. You will find them as multi-vector malwares, and possibly the different files will be legitimate in their own means. But when they kind of aggregate into your systems, then you realize the potential of how they can kind of grow and multiply. And as simple as a single voter's machine can kind of, because it has a legitimate access to the voting system, so it can also be basically a path which can jeopardize the entire system. So typically this is no-brainer. The threat resources can be identified into two areas, like the internal resources as well as the external resources. So these are more or less the actors who will have one or the other form of the access into the system. So internal, I mean, we are definitely creating this as R voting or e-voting system. So definitely one is our legitimate voters. Some election officials who will be proctoring this. Some system administrators, because now you have a backbone of IT to take care of it. So some database administrators, some server administrators, and even even people who are looking into the security infrastructures. And definitely the last portion, which is others, because in the entire life chain, I mean, you will have some people who will be, kind of, it's like pre, post, and during the election, right? So pre is more so in terms of how things are configured, and post is how things are done, post elections. So typically what can go wrong is, as I took the example of voters, definitely, at the end points, if they are controlling, there could be different threats which can crystallize in terms of malwares entering into their personal systems and how well they have safeguarded it. And the other kind of possible things are, possibly with that malware injection, because you are now processing this through a web application. Is it like there can be a software code that I kind of voted in for person X, but at the back end the casted ballot is changed to Y without even my know-how, because there is no way I'm going to verify it, or possibly the things which can go wrong from that angle. Same is the case with election officials. I'm not saying that they are malicious people, but what I'm saying is possibly they will have a higher level of credentials or a privileged identities by virtue of which they will be able to, say for example, configure the ballot systems, or for example trigger the system all in all, or overall see basically the results or aggregate the data at different levels which can be aggregated to the final results. In case, we know there are a lot of incidents which have happened by a simple insertion of a USB or thumb drive, what we call as, into the personal machines of even privileged people. As hardened as even the SCADA systems, which have really tight controls, and you will not have people entering the premises, have been hacked to a capacity that they were brought down. And definitely the system administrators, because they are the ones who are administrating the whole uptime and the upkeep of the systems, the confidentiality they are the ones who are going to have the access to the system logs. A very trivial thing which we are kind of doing with the enterprises as part of the security. So how are you defining your entire structure of the security organization also makes sense here. Because if, say for example, I am the one who is having the capacity or capability of doing the performance tuning of a database, being a database administrator, I also have the capacity to see the logs at the back end. And by virtue of nature, if at all there is a collision between only a server guy and a database person, I can do some mischief there and delete the logs, and there is no traceability of anywhere. So by virtue of which now I can identify what has gone wrong. And the bottom portion is the external world, which is the hostile individuals and hostile organizations. So hostile individuals definitely are the people from the hacker community who either want to prove a point or probably to have some grudge against the society and can do a lot of mischief in terms of, as we heard about the darknet. And nowadays, the collaboration system is much more stronger in the black market as compared to the enterprise talking about the vulnerabilities and sharing. And hostile organizations is again, the same. So what possible threats which can crystallize is, a voter can be inhibited from casting a vote. You can alter the choices as I spoke about, or even alter the way it has been structured. So possibly, one has been designed for constituency A, and from the back end it can be pushed to constituency Y, and when the voters kind of go to that, so they are kind of rejected and they are not able to see the legitimate thing. Monitor how the votes are being carried out. So today is the word of big data analytics. It's using botnets, you can kind of pick up different streams from different areas and kind of analyze how this thing is being done. Now again, I started my dialogue in terms of how system is going to be designed makes much of sense. So Dr. Pramod said that Aadhaar would kind of verify, or probably any identification mechanism would ascertain that you have casted your vote once. But possibly there are certain systems that allow voters to cast more than once, and probably take the maximum figure that if they have casted 4 times, then if they have casted one party 3 times, then that party is the winner, right? So you can define basically how the pattern can evolve, and basically how the big data intelligence can play its own role when we are talking about all this, and how the dynamics can be changed at the back end, monitoring, modifying the results altogether. Change the election results, there's definitely the outcome. It's much more easier to change the election results rather than going through the entire turmoil of going to the individual voters or probably at the constituency level. And this can even lead to harm the overall credibility, right? So it's more so about trust. So if at all the trust is breached, it's very difficult to establish it the next time. Said all this, I'm still a huge proponent of it is really possible. It is not to scare you, but just to show in entirety that how different components can play their own role, and how different things can surface from such minuscule elements in the entire system that are kind of sometimes overlooked. This is more so in terms of the security considerations. So typically, you ask any security geek, he will talk about only three: CIA triad, it's confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So we have just added in identification and authentication also to it. So these are possibly the mischiefs which can go wrong with all these principles or parameters. But typically, why you require confidentiality? You require confidentiality for ballot secrecy, for voter secrecy, so that if at all you are collecting information in your voters registration system, that's not siphoned off somewhere. Because definitely it will not be an individual identification mechanism from where you are authenticating certain elements. It will be more so in terms of linkability in order to extract more value of it. So for example, Shri Pavan Dugal took the example of maybe I took the example again, in the earlier dialogue about attribution. So for example, if there are grievances and you need to link back. So possibly you may have to have an audit trail into your system that who casted a vote, and it may not be a completely anonymous cycle where you don't know where person X casted the vote. And definitely then it becomes a mammoth problem in terms of the scalability and anonymity, because more and more voters are there, and the kind of scale we are planning to have the system, the same is the case in terms of the threat proliferation and how it can go wrong. Vote swapping, it is something which happened in US around 2000-2004 in case, because now there is a mechanism of authentication and seeing what has gone wrong, probably who you have casted vote. There can be buying and selling of votes and confirmation of that whether you have casted it to my candidate who I am paying in for. And I'm just sorry about the color of the text here. So typically about integrity is again about the bugs and the malicious software both at the hardware and the software level, and how we can see it right from where and how the software has been coded, whether it is kind of provided by an OEM and it's a registered OEM, and probably you have gone through multiple auditory cycles confirming that they are kind of state of art, or again with the hardware in terms of the designing and how critically it has been reviewed when we are talking about, because it can do much more harm in terms of the credibility of overall system. Availability. So by default, for example, if the elections has been announced and possibly there is a denial of service attack, we can understand basically the damage it can do to the society. And with all justice, we have already heard about the case of Estonia and Georgia, where they were kind of, they are one of the most digitized economies, but still, the kind of attacks which happen, how the whole country can be brought to knees, and these systems could cripple. To one extent, if anyone of you have seen Die Hard 4 movie, so you have that fire sale attack in which, again, it's not corroborating directly to our voting, but to the digital systems. If you have the entire economy digitized, it has its own perils as well, that how you want to control and how the different attacks can jeopardize the situation. And definitely in terms of timeliness of delivery and overall the flexibility of physical location, if you are not concerned, if you are way too concerned about certain locations that people can vote in from there, because you are not able to kind of have reasonable security practices to that extent, because even if you are tracing back, unless and until you have a very good international collaboration, after some hops, you are not able to kind of go back and trace back the root cause. And identification and authentication, as we spoke about, yes, definitely Aadhaar can act as a very good system and a backbone, but it depends how we are adding additional information, and that addition of additional information can definitely help in moving the system, but it has its own perils in terms of how we are safeguarding the security and privacy of the voters, how we are safeguarding that information in terms of whether I'm okay in divulging my opinions, or possibly my address or my constituency and all those things publicly, by which I am not being coerced or being followed by somebody else to cast a vote in certain direction. So accountability of administrative actions. I just gave an example of database administrator can doing some mischief, but this can be extrapolated to any level of administrative actions. So these are the typical security capabilities. So they are kind of in the 16 spaces, right from your entire governance risk and management to your security organization in terms of how you do threat and vulnerability management. So the idea is, in any solution, anyways, all these are put in bits and pieces. But what is required is that there is a continual improvement in all these. The system by itself matures in all these areas, tests them and verifies them periodically, and kind of adapts the technology wherever necessary. So have a system which is kind of which meets the goal, but as well as it is secure by itself. So that's all I have for today. Any questions?
Yeah, we are ready for questions. Anyone in the audience?
Thank you, Steve. I enjoyed your presentation, and I actually got some comfort from seeing the depth of your analysis. There's a lot of bad guys, but your analysis shows that people are thinking about them. And one thing I want to point out to this audience is software bugs. Now, I might get attacked tomorrow, my computer system might be attacked tomorrow, maybe they don't really get that, I don't know. But software bugs are there all the time. We had a senior official yesterday ask for a system that was flawless. Of course he was joking. There's always going to be bugs. And I wanted to say it's likely that everybody in this room has been a victim of a software bug. And I found one in Microsoft PowerPoint yesterday preparing my presentation. And I just want to make a comment that in providing end-to-end verifiable versions, it detects bugs. So no bugs can damage your host without making a trace. And I think it diminishes our reliance on security somewhat.
Security. So as the technology is evolving, however, with assurance that yes, you will not be hacked. But what can be done is, possibly, with the right measures in place, you can keep on continually evolve yourself in terms of seeing those scenarios. So rather than seeing only significant solutions, so possibly your IDS, IPS or antiviruses, you may kind of have to invest in certain technologies where the same, say for example, IDS analytical systems can throw you that data in terms of possible behavior analytics and how system can behave with even small parameter changes, so that you can take some of those mechanisms upfront or some of those measures upfront. And the way I think the technology is moving, it is more so towards self-heal systems. I think there are certain systems which are moving in that direction. Let's hope for the best that we get to that direction. We are even if we are not able to close all the loopholes, but still we are able to take reasonable measures in safeguarding the interest.
Thank you.
I'm Shastri from Bhopal State Election Commission. As DSCI, what standards or guidelines or framework would you contribute for the voting?
It's a nice question. The last slide which you're seeing is a snapshot of our framework itself. So it's all available on the DSCI's website. It's our security framework. There is a parallel framework for privacy as well, right? And so these frameworks detail out the entire set of kind of controls or possibly things which you should see how to safeguard a system. And in addition to these two frameworks, there is an additional framework which help you in periodically assessing the security of a system. So they are all available on our website. You can go ahead and have a look at them. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach us. So if there are no more questions.
Any other question? Okay, if there are no more questions, let's thank Abhishek for the wonderful presentation.